Hey guys, this is Jamie. So today I want to talk about, I guess, one of the most fascinating politicians of our time, and specifically in American politics, with very, very impressive credentials and a way with words. And for once, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, but I'm talking about Pete Hegseth, also known as, Whiskey Pete's, Whiskey Leaks, and any other sort of whiskey nicknames attributed to him. So obviously, I think he pretty much made a name for himself when he started leaking different WhatsApp groups, different group chats to the media, and obviously everyone was very sort of alert or confused, specifically different high-ranking officers when for last week he asked to have a meeting in Quantico, and he said that it was of utmost importance for everyone to be there. So obviously, he had officers not just from all the U.S. but from abroad fly in, and people were worried. There were different sort of conspiracy theories, or like theories like, is some war gonna break out? Is there something relevant, something massive happening, and why is he doing such a high scale sort of meeting? And then it ended up being him saying pretty much no fat, no femmes, no gays. Everyone straight acting in the military. So I don't even know where to start with this one because how to put this? I'm pretty sure the fact that certain things that he said, like the fact that we need to have at least twice a year physical exams for officers, which are very high ranked, is a very bizarre concept, and specifically because I mean we see um, RFK Jr., which is in shape and is supposed to be very healthy, and obviously he's not with his brain worms and stuff. So obviously, someone's look or the fact that they have a six pack or if they're a certain BMI doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy. So obviously, demanding that from officers of a certain age, which are not in actually active combat, isn't exactly a need. And I'm not even the right person to sort of argue for this. But if someone is doing orders and is not necessarily in the battlefields, I don't think you need to be expecting certain requirements like a BMI, or if they can do, I don't know, 100 push ups in a minute for all I care. So it is very bizarre. And then he went on to say that the army is going to be flourishing with certain things like we will have no men in dresses. And how to put this, the US armed forces had drag shows for a really long while. And even in more strict times, like before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, during World War II, and in general, drag has been a part of the military. So it is very bizarre to sort of say like you can't wear a dress when there was very much entertainment at the time. And there have been obviously a lot of trans officers, a lot of like cross dressing officers through the ages. So it's very bizarre to say to pretty much put people back into the closet, or to say that for some reason what someone is dressing up as or feels they need to dress up in is a determination of their competence. And another thing is, and that he said, aside from trans soldiers or cross dressing, the fact that if it means no woman qualify for some combat jobs because if they're DEI hires, then so be it. And that goes into certain things like, why is he against women in the military? Why is he against certain hires? And the fact that these people, or these women in this case, have been in their positions, they've risen to their ranks not because they're DEI hires, but because they're competent women in the military. And same for trans individuals, whether they're trans men or trans women in the military. So this whole thing is very bizarre. Obviously, the whole DEI hire is just an excuse for them to actually just put white men in every position possible. And I do understand that that is their insane policy, but you need to understand that if you're limiting a position to certain attributes, you're narrowing your field. And it's not about DEI hires, you're just pretty much you're saying that you think that only a specific type of person can be in that position when there is no certain need for it. And the problem is that the whole speech, aside from Donald Trump also like going in bizarre sort of ways to sort of provoke laughs from people who are more sort of classic Republicans rather than this TikTok punchline Republican, or Democrats, or just highly educated people who are not in this MAGA brain rot. Of course, they won't be happy to be called in just to hear random speeches, which are going to be cut and posted and edited on TikTok for some brain rot to observe and be like, yeah, this is the America we need. And in general, this whole thing could have been summarized as Hegseth, and then Trump felt like they just want to parade in front of the officers without understanding anything. So it is a very bizarre meeting that went on, and obviously Hegseth's policies, Hegseth's ideas are already insane, and it is just bizarre to sort of see him in such a high position of power. But then if we have Trump in a position of power, or like RFK Jr. as the health minister or secretary, is also even more bizarre. And we see all these people pretty much try to do statements, try to do things in order to please a crowd which might not be pleased, or they still need to understand that their voters still include women, they still include men of color, they still include immigrants. So in the end, there's trying to pioneer for this America that doesn't even exist properly. Not all of America is just white men, but in their idea, they think there's more white men than they're imagining. But even then, like, the white men still have like family. They might be married to women of color. They're married to women as well. They might have a trans sibling, a gay cousin, a gay uncle, a lesbian sister, and they don't understand that they're not just. It's not about DEI or like some idea that woke is pushing onto them. They don't understand that the reality is that we all live in this melting pot, and we can't sort of push back into a certain ideology that didn't exist. The idea is that we need to start accepting everyone around us, and this whole distilled sort of religion or distilled MAGA theory that a certain Christianity that they preach is the only right way just shows how bizarre it is. And like, I try to sort of even like sit down here and try to explain it, and the reality is that I don't even know what they're talking about, because like, I was talking about this with my partner, and sorry to divert a bit, but even the whole idea of like trad wives, if we go back in time, people had to work in the fields, people had to work, people were slaves, people were servants, because that was the only way to bring food to the table. So all this trad wife ideology, or this idea that woman will stay at home and not work with her husband, only existed for a very specific period of years, and they kind of parrots this idea that it always existed and it is the thing that America needs, when in reality it only existed for a very small time, and we're just erasing everything around it because we're supposed to believe in this idea that that was the right America without looking at all the nuances. So it's very bizarre. And all of that is not even something that they're striving to properly do. They're just striving to remove everything in order to appeal this idea while chopping everything off, and no one really looks forward to their idea. In general, is just making infighting. So it's all very bizarre. And obviously everything's fascism. But yeah. Sorry, I kind of diverted a bit by the ends of it, but what I'm trying to say is that this whole speech was insane. This whole event was insane. The fact that they're just calling people, they're using a bunch of funds instead of fucking doing healthcare, or with the fact that they cut off Medicare when they shouldn't have. So the money is getting used for absolutely abnormal things. No one is happy about it, but they still keep going for these ideas, and then everyone else is just left confused. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I'm sorry I kind of went a bit in a different direction because I feel like every day I just wake up and I get confused about the state of the world. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that the world will somehow get itself back on its feet somehow. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to give it a like, feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much.